Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number 1 in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, friends. Alright, are we coming through? Welcome to Tiger Claw Radio, everybody. I'm your host, Critical Failure. It's that time again. Oh yeah. So this week we got some games to go over. Steam is changing things again. Big game changer with the latest Steam update in their beta. On top of that, we've got some craziness. There were tears that were shed. There were smiles that were had. All that and more this week on Tiger Claw Radio. So let's kick things off by revisiting Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 7. Now, if you're not familiar with this is a compilation album that's released for free by Chiptunes Equals Win. And the latest one is out. You can go download it right now. There's been some great stuff on it. I've been listening to it on the way to work most days, and it has been great. We played a couple tracks last week. We're going to do it again this week. This song's called Greatest Hat from Protodome. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Top quality here on Tiger Club Radio. What a track. That is some sweet chiptunes. Very good stuff. All right, it's time to hop into the time machine, and we're going to Tarantino it a little bit. We're going to play things out of sequence. We're going to jump back to Monday. This is what I like to do. Monday driving to work. It's a unique point of view, a unique time frame when certain things come out when they won't any other time of the week. It's part of the reason why I still like to do these van casts after all this time. So join me, won't you? Let's go to the van. Monday morning, everybody. It's the van cast. Driving to work. It's really humid out today. Very humid on this late August day. Getting ready to wind down on the summer. We got, I think, one more week of summer, and then it's September. Then the kids go back to school, and it'll be busy streets on the way to work. I don't usually like to talk about this kind of thing because I like to keep it light, but I do want to just touch on this shooting that happened in Florida yesterday. During the during the, I guess it was a John Madden football tournament kind of event. Something I wasn't really familiar with. Somebody opened fire, and it was really bad news. Situations like this are really tough, because I feel like at this point something like this could happen anytime, like at any place. I go to these types of conventions. I go to MAGfest locally here in town, and I just wanted to say, be safe, everyone. And be safe, and don't watch the footage, because it messed with my head pretty hard. Because in video games we stream everything, right? Everything's recorded, everything's streamed, let's get it on my YouTube channel. And this was pretty rough. This was a pretty rough watch. So I just wanted to give something genuine, something completely non-politicized. Just be safe. That's all. And I got some more vancasting to go over, but usually when I end these things, I always ask, what would I play if I were at home and all responsibilities were gone? Well, I'll tell you what I would do today. I'd wake my son up, and I'd sit him down on the floor of my office, and we'd play whatever he wanted to play. And that's what I would do. We'd probably end up playing Worms, split screen, or a hot seat, I guess it is. Or he likes Minecraft LAN parties. Got a couple of computers hooked up to the Wi-Fi. We have a couple of Minecraft accounts. That's something he really enjoys, when we get in and play Minecraft together. Speaking of playing games with my son, last week I talked a lot about Twisted Metal 2 and acquiring Vigilante 8. Well, my son and I sat down and played Vigilante 8 together, and he was digging it for a while. He was willing to play, but I made the mistake of playing versus mode. I had this idea, okay, look, it's going to be just you and me. You can get used to how the game works, and then we'll play against the other cars. But as slow as I tried to go, and he couldn't quite get the hang of it, and he ended up getting really frustrated, which was kind of sad, because I was looking forward to going back to back and tag teaming against an army of computer controlled 1970s driving aces. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it for the short time we were able to play it together. I hope he tries it again. It was good. I will say that the especially with Vigilante 8, that game's not perfect. There's input lag, just built into the game, just because the game is trying to do more than the hardware can really handle. So when you drive the cars around, there's a clear delay. There is no question. Something that today's gamer would really find unacceptable. So I don't know how I'm going to handle it. All I can think to do is either shell out for the Xbox 360 version, or try and get emulation working. Because I gave emulation a try and it wasn't great. The game did run, but it had lots of issues. So I don't know. There was also a 1-hour video on how to properly configure EPSXE. So I haven't given up on it. It's just not going well right now. Okay. Let's move on to Nintendo. Nintendo has been on a bit of a rampage lately, a bit of a tear, if you will. We reported on this last week or a couple of weeks ago. We know Emu Paradise, or Emulation Paradise, whatever it is, went down. They stopped offering downloads. But that's one of several sites that has gone down in the last month or so. We lost Cool ROM. Cool ROM's still around, but they took down all their Nintendo-related downloads. You can still go there and get your Atari downloads. You can still go there and get your Sega downloads. And there were a couple of sites I hadn't heard of which also pulled their Nintendo-related ROMs. So This kind of leaves me scratching my head because I completely understand why Nintendo would want to go after ROM sites. It makes perfect sense to me. They sell the Nintendo games, you got ROM sites giving them away for free. Of course they would go after. The problem is, well, the question is, why didn't they go after them in 1999? You know what I mean? These ROM sites have been around, for a long time, and enough people have visited them and downloaded the ROMs. I'm not 100% sure what they're going to accomplish, because they're not going to pull the ROMs out of circulation this way, not at this point. Let's go back to 1999, all right? In 1999, everybody in the neighborhood had an AOL account. That's how it was. We had AOL accounts. We would connect to the internet via dial-up, and we would download things at probably about 5K, a little bit less, 5K per second. So you could get NES ROMs right away, but if you wanted a Super Nintendo ROM, you were going to wait for a minute or two. Not too bad, but a minute or two. To put things in perspective, the average MP3 took 30 minutes to download. Okay? So if you wanted to download an entire album, you were going to wait a while. You had to really want that album and really not want to pay for it. This is back when Best Buy still had a huge selection of CDs, and that was the way most people got music, because you would go and pay for a CD, and there you go. And that was what we were all happy with. In my neighborhood, we had a used CD place, which I loved. I loved this place so much because they sold CDs for $8 instead of $20 or $10 or whatever it was, and I bought a lot of music that way, brother. A lot of music. All right, hang on a second. I'm getting on the highway. I usually like to turn this thing off before I get to the highway, but it didn't happen this time. So I'm busy merging. Okay, and get immersed. There we go. We have successfully completed 1 out of 4 dangerous lane changes that I have to do in the morning. What was I talking about? Yeah, collecting music, or getting music. Back in the day. Yeah, it was a good time. That was back when the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones were probably my favorite band in the world. I was into punk rock a lot, and I would buy these punk compilations. $5, you'd get yourself a CD with 20 songs on it. None of it was ever played on the radio, so that's how great way to discover new music. Those were good times. So we had these AOL accounts, and there were very few central hub ROM websites. As of 3 months ago, if you wanted ROMs, you would go to one centralized site that had just about every ROM for that system there was. But in those days, there were very few centralized sites. We didn't even have, among search engines, you know how Google's kind of the champ right now in terms of popularity? It wasn't like that in those days. There were a lot of search engines. I mean, there still are, but, if you got 10 people in a room who all used the internet, they weren't all going to throw out the same search engine name. And that's the way it was with ROM sites. Rather than having a cultural centralized hub, we had a lot of really small maintained ROM sites with small focused collections. Here are all the ROMs I was able to collect. They're up for download. Is it the entire collection? No, it is not, but it's what I got. And you would have to cruise, 10, 20, 30, 40 pages to build your ROMs collection. That's how it was, man. Going out and finding ROMs was an activity all on its own. It wasn't just you know what? I think I want to play Punch-Out. Tell you what, let's go to let's look up Punch-Out. Oh, hey, look, it's Emu Paradise. We'll just head over to Emu Paradise. We'll get the ROM, and we're in. No, it was much more difficult than that. It was more difficult, but it was also kind of nice, going into these little pages and seeing what people set up for themselves. That was a time when the average high school kid was learning basic HTML skills so that they could run their personal websites, because there were much less point and click web development tools back in those days. We had some, but not many. That was when GeoCities was in full swing. People would have GeoCities pages and that sort of stuff. So what I think is going to happen now that these major cultural hubs are going down, a couple of things. We're going to see a prevalence of complete set torrents show up, right? And we're also going to see a return to the very small website. Hey, I got like 20 ROMs. They're my favorite ROMs. Here's Old Bob's ROM Shack. Sign my guest book. Sign my guest book and leave your full name so we can commemorate the illegal activity that you're engaged in right now. In those days, people used to trade ROMs, right? If you're old enough to remember the AOL chat room system, it was basically like an IRC server with a nice fancy interface, or an interface that was nice and fancy for the time, with inboxes set up as per your IRC handle, right? With pretty strong, I have to admit, pretty strong file sharing software for the time. Couldn't share big files, that was really difficult. But it worked well enough to trade ROMs around. Now, I remember very specifically in those days people looking for Japanese versions of games. That was a big thing. I want to get the Japanese version of this game or that game or whatever. It was a different time. Very different. My real curiosity is Nintendo. Like, I get the feeling this is phase one of a greater plan, right? I would like to think that. We need to pull these ROM sites down so that we can sell this product. My worry is that it's going to be their pay per service or software as a service subscription model sort of thing. Get all these Nintendo games for this amount of money. Whatever it is, it's going to be bad. What we're not going to see is a return to the virtual console, but with reasonable prices. And people have been saying, one argument against this I've heard is, it goes, the existence of the ROMs is going to preserve history better than Nintendo's build will, or Nintendo's business model will, and I have to agree. Because if you look at the virtual console, not every game made it to the virtual console, and the ones that did, we had to wait a long time for. I think it's going to be like that all over again. There's games that they don't have the right, they can't reproduce in whole anymore for one reason or another. Music, third-party rights, all sorts of reasons. Licensed games, Say what you want about LJN. LJN is the NES game company everybody likes to dump on, but they made a lot of licensed games. And some of those games might not be so easy to release these days with the cost of licensing a lot of the Marvel intellectual property and all that stuff. Those games came out before superhero movies were what they are today, right? So, I don't know. Take that for what you will. They are history unchanged for the most part. And as they resell the games on modern systems, history will be changed. And they have every right to do it, I guess. But it still doesn't sit very well with me. I don't know. I haven't tried it myself, but I've also heard that the ISO zone isn't offering downloads anymore. That really hurts. The ISO zone used to distribute a lot of homebrew ISOs for Dreamcast. If you wanted to run Quake on your Dreamcast, ISO zone had something set up you could download and burn, and it would run. Not just stuff like that, but creative stuff. Like if you wanted to manipulate what your VMUs would do, those little memory cards that could act as tiny game consoles. You could download customized software that would change the screen on the VMU and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's really sad the incredible destruction of all of the work that the community has come together to make available. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about just downloading a ROM and playing it. I'm not talking about just downloading an ISO and playing it. I'm talking about things that the community has built. Open bore games, right? open games those beat 'em ups that were built by the community from the ground up. Are all of those gone too? I don't know. I've got to look. I haven't done anything like that with the Dreamcast in a long time. I set up a couple of ISOs to burn, and I burned them, and they didn't work. And this was like almost a year ago or more. But that would be really sad if all that was gone. I have to double check that, but I'm not sure. All right, I'm almost done with the Vancast for today. I'm 16 minutes in. I know this is going on a long time. What would I do if I were back home? I would probably wake my son up and we'd play some games together. Barring that, I can tell you this past week I've been playing a lot of pinball. Hemrock, you might remember, submitted a score for Space Cadet. Space Cadet being, if you don't remember, the pack-in pinball game that, what was it, Windows 98 that Space Cadet came along with? It was either Windows 98 or Windows XP, but good old Space Cadet pinball. Well, I tracked down a copy of Space Cadet and I started playing it myself. And I scored something like 1.2 million, something like that. But we're going to wait until a little bit later on in the show to go over the pinball scores, because I want to have the actual accurate numbers in front of me. I played that, and I also played a lot of Pinball Fantasies, which was a good time. I'm building a high scoreboard in Pinball Fantasies, but it's harder in that game because they throw your score away if you don't reach over a certain mark. Like, when you finish a game, it should freeze on your score until you're ready to hit the button. That way you can write it down if you want to. Pinball Fantasies doesn't do that. And it's one of the most frustrating things about that program, because the pinball tables are really good. There's a lot of pinball in that table in that package. But it's also very hard to maintain a personal scoreboard. You have to hit over the mark in order for it to be recorded in their localized high score table. And once it's recorded in their high score table, then it'll save it for you. Not like Epic Pinball, where you got a high score table that starts at 0 and there's 3 spots, and that's your high score, not anybody else's. That's the way I like it. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of pinball. Last week I talked a little bit about the crazy concept of doing a video games magazine that only had one page in it. And I started collecting some scores. A couple things became apparent to me is I couldn't even one single page, I couldn't do it alone. I'd have to have other people playing the same games, and I'd have to be going out and finding scores to these games that are coming from the community. So we're definitely going to do one. I don't know if I'm going to do one every month or whatever, but there's definitely going to be one. A print and play high score sort of deal where you can play along. Alright, that's it. My apologies to everybody about Doom Night. Doom Night was supposed to be this past Saturday, and I just got wrapped up with my kids and my family, and obligations just took over, and there was nothing I could do to get out of it. I hope you guys got together in the Discord, the Next Round Discord, and played some Doom with each other. We're going to give this a try again for next week, because I really want to play Doom with the old gang again. Let's make this happen. Does everybody have it up and running? Are we there yet? Well, all right, boys and girls, I'm at the office now. I will see you back in the studio. This is called This is called Souvenir with a Banal Diptych. It's from Chezzy Sezzy. It's song number 37 on 37. It's song number 37 on Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 7. Go get yourself a copy. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. right, just I want to take a minute to thank the patrons. This is a time I like to tip my hat. And remember that this is a Patreon-sponsored podcast. These guys, they're giving of their resources to make sure this little rinky-dink show can come back every single week. Every Monday without fail. This is something you would count on, like clockwork. And I go the extra mile for these guys and for you to make sure this happens every single week. And as a benefit, they get early access to the podcast. It goes up as soon as it gets done. I throw it up for them. Everybody else, it goes up Monday morning. They also have access to the supporters only edition, which is called the After Party. It's once a month. And I also read off their names in Hall of Distinguished Gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and the Cartridge Brothers. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. I really appreciate it. Well, all right then. It's time to go back to the van. Lots more stuff to cover. Coming up, we got MAGfest. That's coming. And a bunch of other stuff. So stay with me. We're going back to the van right here on TCR. It's Tuesday morning. It's time for the Vancast. All right, everybody. So just before I left the house, I was looking around on the internet and I saw that today MAGfest tickets go on sale. MAGfest 2019. I'm torn because a couple of things. Last year we had a really difficult time at MAGfest. When the tickets went on sale, their early purchase price bracket disappeared in minutes. Right? It was like, get one for, I don't know, $50 or something like that. And then by the time I actually got done with work and was able to buy a ticket, it was gone already. This year, they haven't started pre-registration, but I do know that the prices are going to start at $75. So, by the way, it was $40 when I started going to this thing. So there's going to be no discount offered to people who get their tickets in advance. So that's one thing. Also, last year, our room overbooked us, just the same way airlines do. So when we got there, they were like, well, we don't have a room for you. So they put us up in a room that was like another hotel that was like a couple of blocks down the way. And this hotel they put us up at, it would have been fine, except the TVs didn't work with our like game systems and stuff, so we couldn't like hook our systems up and play. And it was also freezing cold out, so we had to walk an extra couple of blocks to get to the convention center. It was really rough. I mean, we had fun, but there was a lot of problems with it. So now it's decision time. On the other hand, though, I want to take my son to MAGfest at least one time. I haven't taken him before. So we'll have to see. It's decision time now if I'm going to pony up one more time for MAGfest so that I can take my boy, or if I'm done. And we would instead, I don't know, rent a room at a sleep-in somewhere and then just have some friends of mine meet with a TV, stay up all night playing games. Because I gotta tell you, that in past years, that's been the best part of MAGfest, is just having a party in the room. Yeah, the arcades are cool, but, you know, we bring our computers and a couple of HDMI cables, hook them up to the TV, and we just go nuts. That's usually the best part. So, I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Also, the vendors, like, I'm not. I don't get like a huge haul at MAGfest every year either. That's the thing. It's like I get something every year, but I feel like I wouldn't be missing out on something huge with the vendors. I don't get any deals, right? I can just order all that stuff on the internet. So I don't know. I gotta figure it out pretty quick. Hang on a second. Alright. Okay. Can you hear the coffee machine going back and forth in the back of my car? That's MAGfest. I gotta text Hemrock and see if he's gonna be going this year. He hasn't gone in the past, but I think most years he's like, man, it would be fun, but this year I'm too busy. So we'll just have to see for this year. Because if he's going, I'll definitely go. That's another thing. None of my friends from like the video game scene or the YouTube community scene, none of those guys go anymore. That's another thing. In the beginning, Derek Alexander was going every year. And we had Vintage Video Game Geek, Gamester 81. That was how I met Arcade Impossible. They just showed up there. So, yeah, none of those guys really go anymore. I think the only people who go, Retroware TV still goes. And that's all. I mean, I that's all I can think of off the top of my head. I guess the Game Chasers go. I don't know if they went last year, but I've seen them there before. But none of my friends really go. So, I don't know. I've got to figure it out pretty quick because the tickets go on sale today. They go on sale today in the middle of the workday. It's funny, like I'm still kind of getting angry about it when I think about it. We'll have to see how it goes. Alright, if I was done with work and I just turned around and went home, what would I play? Well, before I left this morning, I was sitting on the carpet flipping through my PS1 games. There's a lot of good stuff there. I got to play a little bit of PS1 last night, but not much. When I say a little bit, I'm talking like maybe 10-15 minutes. I put in Army Men 3D. Now, I've played the original Army Men game, Army Men, and then Army Men 2. They got released on Steam maybe 3-4 months ago, and I picked them up, and I had played them, and they are pretty cool. Army Men 3D I played once with my older brother. I think he might have actually rented it from Blockbuster. I don't know, sometime 20 years ago. But I bought Army Men 3D from like a thrift store or something for $1, and it's just sat in my collection for many years. So I finally put it in and played it yesterday, and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. It's better than I remember it being. So it would be nice to sit down and play Army Men 3D again. Or look up, I would do some work on my single page video game high score magazine, the print and play video game magazine. I'd take a look at that. I'd have to figure out what other good games could go on there for the first issue and see what I could do to get some scores together. Usually when I think of that thing right now, my headspace is in like terms of pinball. To get some pinball games on there, that's what I've been playing. But there would have to be shmups also, right? Because what kind of games still pay attention to your high score? Classic arcade games, shmups, and pinball. That's what I can think of. I'm sure there's more, but that's what comes to mind right now. By the way, just before I sign off, as it turns out, if you're a Linux user and Steam, if you enter the beta, right, if you go into the options and you enroll in the Steam client beta, they are now adding their own compatibility layer to make Windows games work natively in Linux. And the way I heard the Linux Gamer talking about it, and he said they forked Wine and integrated their Wine fork into the Linux Steam shell. The long and short of it is, games that don't have Linux ports but run on DOSBox, they're going to make work on Linux. So there's a certain amount of those games that they've already added this compatibility to. So if you switch over to the Steam beta, you'll notice the number of Linux games in your collection most likely will go up. And the list of games that they've added this compatibility layer to, I don't have the list in front of me, but I know it includes Doom and Doom 2 and Hexen and Quake. A lot of games that not only I have, but also very much enjoy playing. I would have in my Linux only days, before I could afford a a Windows key, I would have loved to have had some of those games working natively. It would have been awesome. So it's cool that they got around to fixing it. And that about wraps it up for the Tuesday morning Vancast. I'm driving in, ready to do my day at work, getting ready to face the day. I'm unsure about this whole MAGfest situation, so we'll have to see how it plays out. I'll report back on it back in the studio. I'll see you guys there. All right, boys and girls, we're not done yet. Stick with us. We're going to Friday. Is it Friday? No. Thursday was the next one I did. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday. It's time for some Vancast. I hope you guys are having a good morning. I'm off on my way to work. The sky is blue. The sun is just about up. I'm ready to start my day. So let's talk about Just Survive. Just Survive on Steam, which is formerly called H1Z1. It's what H1Z1 used to be before it split in two and kind of became one of these battle royale type games. Well, Just Survive sort of became a derelict as soon as they made the split into two and all the players went over to the battle royale game. But it's been online all this time. And now I played it some. I bought both of those games last year, and I probably put about 2 or 3 hours into Just Survive. So not a lot, to be honest and to be fair. But I just got the email this past week that Just Survive is getting ready to shut down. Nobody's playing it. They're not making any money with it. They're shutting it down. Which is I totally get it. And if I was that company, I probably would have done it sooner, to be honest. But this is the problem with these games that were everything is 100% dependent on what's being online. I mean, that was $10 that I spent on that game. And it was, the couple hours that I played it, it was just fine. It wasn't at all a survival game. I mean, I guess it was, but I never encountered any zombies that came after me. The players that I encountered were okay. We all ended up just sitting in town, joking around with our guns. It's pretty fun. I mean, it was okay. I could kind of see where H1Z1 King of the Kill came from. It was nice to play a version of that game that predated Battle Royale. And I'm sorry to see it go. Honestly, what I think they should have done is they should have put it in the same package as H1Z1 King of the Kill, or whatever they're calling it now. Made it one game again, and instead of running 20 servers, just strip them all out and run maybe one. And then just have it like a little sub-game inside of H1Z1 King of the Kill. Hey, you tired of King of the Kill? Have fun in the little survival game. There's not much to it, but it's there for you. I think that would have been a much better idea. I think it would have taken a lot of work. It would have taken some resources. I think the file size for the H1Z1 Battle Royale game would go up. It'd have to accommodate 2 maps. I don't know. It just... That one kind of sucks to see go. I understand it. It just kind of sucks to see it go. It goes at the end of October. I gotta fire it up and play it at least once more. And that's really all I have to say about that. In other news, when it comes to games being left from stripped out of Steam, The Last Remnant, I believe it's called. I was talking to Hemrock last night, and he pointed out, hey, The Last Remnant's being removed from Steam in a few days, actually. By the time you're hearing this, it's probably already gone. And he was like, yeah, man, it's getting pulled. So this is your last chance to buy it, and it's $10. At first, I was like, yeah, I'll let it go. But then I decided, you know what? It's $10. It's one of these Square-type RPGs. I might want to play it now that I have a nice computer. Let's just go take a look. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. So I went to the storefront, and it turns out I had it already. which I was pretty thankful for. So that's one more game I can add to my list of games you can't buy on Steam anymore. 2 more games. I mean, Just Survive and Last Remnant. And that is the state of purchasing games on Steam. And that's why it sucks to see ROM sites be taken down in favor of digital distribution, because I love digital distribution. It has been good to me. I've gotten some good things from it, but there's definitely its drawbacks that we didn't see in physical media, and this is one of them, when games can't/won't be sold anymore. Oh boy. Man, this is a nice morning. It was really nice out, guys. Just seeing the sky with no clouds in it. This perfect time of day where the sun has just come up. It looks really nice. It's really nice out. Gotta say. I'm hopeful for a good day at work today. So last night and this morning, I fired up my GOG client, GOG Galaxy, and I was playing the Pinball Gold Pack, which is a collection of pinball games. I don't know where they originated at. I want to say the Amiga. Sean has told me about this before. I believe they came from the Amiga, but it's Pinball Fantasies, Pinball Illusions, a bunch of games like that. And I've been playing a bunch of pinball, which has been great. Been writing my scores down and getting better. That's always fun in a score-based game. Writing down your scores and seeing yourself improve, and then like clawing and scratching your way to get the highest score you can get. I really enjoy doing that. So with the whole idea I pitched last week of, hey, let's do a video game magazine, but it only has 1 page and it's designed for you to print it out and follow along with high scores. Pinball Gold, in one shape or another, is definitely going to be featured in issue 1, for sure. Pinball Gold and also Pinball Cadet, or Space Cadet, the pack-in game with Windows XP or 98, whatever it was. I got myself a copy of that. I've been playing that as well. Now I just need to find a good shmup to settle into and start pushing a high score in a shmup. I'll have to dig up the results of our Raiden battles. You may remember about 3 or 4 months ago, me and Alex Swingle and Retro Kaiser, we were playing Raiden 3 and Raiden 4, and we had a pretty hot score battle. Retro Kaiser and I believe Saga played some. Saga played as well, but I think he only played one of the 2 games. I got to look the scores up for that, and I'll dump them in, because those were fun times. The Raiden high score battles for me were really they were really awesome, because that was an example of a high score battle. Whether you won or lost, regardless of what your status was on the board, that was a battle that made those games live and jump again, and it made those games worth playing again when I hadn't played them in a long time. And that's really what the high score battles are designed to do. The problem with high scores is that if you're not keeping track, there's no stakes and there's no reason to care about the number. So these high score battles, they give you a reason to care. You know? If you don't know what I'm talking about, try putting in an Atari game that you haven't played in a long time, or maybe a new one that you haven't played. It doesn't matter. With no understanding of the points economy and how what's a high score, what's a low score, and just play and just see what it's like when you don't have any reason to care about the score. That's the impression that most people get when they play the Atari. You gotta find a way to make the points matter. That's up to you. Alright, hang on a second. We're going around a tight turn here. I gotta make sure I don't run into anybody. Because winners don't do drugs. That's another thing that about pinball fantasies that makes me laugh. Is that on the scoreboard that flashes in between games, it says winners don't do drugs. Which is absolutely true. But it's also something that's just indicative of the time that makes me laugh. So here's a question for you guys. Was Pinball Fantasies on the Super Nintendo? I'm aware that it got ported to several different places. There's a version of it that's on the Jaguar. And it was on the Amiga and the PC. But there is excuse me. Oh boy. There is a game called Pinball Fantasies for the Super Nintendo. Saw it on eBay this morning, thinking about picking it up. Not too expensive. It's like $9.50 for a Super Nintendo cartridge. That's pretty good. But I'm not sure if it's the same Pinball Fantasies that we're talking about. The one that's got the Party Time table, and then Stones and Bones, and the $1 Billion Game Show. And I can't remember what the other one was. High Speed or something like that. That's the Pinball Fantasies I want. What would I do if I were back home? Well, I would set Just Survive to download. And while it was downloading, I'd fire up my GOG Galaxy client again, and I'd play the Stones and Bones table in Pinball Fantasies. Now that was one that I played early this morning just before I left the house, and I was really digging it, man. It's been mostly party time for me. The circus-themed pinball table. But this morning I was like, oh, that's the spooky one with the spooky, scary skeletons. I like that. I'm digging it. That's what I would do. I'd play pinball while I waited for Just Survive to download. And then when Just Survive finished, I'd fire up OBS and I'd start making videos. I don't know what would ever come of the videos, but when I have a chance to play a game I know I'm not going to play anymore, I want to try and commemorate the occasion somehow. And I think that's going to be it for the Vancast this time out. What are we at? 11 and a half minutes in? I think I covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. And with that, I'm going to go do my Thursday at the office. I'll see you guys back at the studio. Oh my goodness. I can't believe this has been one of those weeks where I feel like I barely made it through, guys. I really do. I feel like I had to scratch and claw all week just to come out the other end alive. But that's how it goes. Sometimes there are weeks like that, and you stick it out, and sure enough, you make it to the other side, and that's what I did. So this is the time where I like to enjoy the fact that we've got a little operation. It's just me here. It's just you here. I've seen the numbers. I know how it goes. That's okay. So let's take advantage of it and interact a little bit. It's very easy for me to interact with everybody right now with the size of the show. So if you want to get in touch with me, send me an email. Let me know what's okay to read on the air. Otherwise, just leave a comment on YouTube or comment pretty much anywhere where you can get the show, and I'll do what I can. So the first one comes from Hemrock, who always saves the day with these emails. Let's see what he's got. Hey, CF, thanks for another episode. Keep smashing through your problems like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh, yeah! Glad to see you picked up MTG Online. I enjoyed playing with you this week. It was good to hear an audio comment from good old Kazleb. Thank you, Kaz, for reminding me about Spy vs. Spy for the original Xbox. I penciled that down on my Xbox wish list that I keep on my phone. Hooking up the PS2 for the OG Xbox or the OG Xbox to play online sounds interesting, but cumbersome. The original Spyro was a great game. My brother and I traded our Black Dawn game for my cousin's copy of Spyro back in the day. Manjaro is still treating me well. I wish I could get MTG Online to run on it, but no luck. As you alluded to in the last episode, there is a new feature on Steam called Steam Play, and it's powered by something called Proton, which is more or less Valve's version of Wine that allows Linux users to play Windows games directly on the Steam client. It's a great idea, and I think it'll bring more good than harm. However, it makes me wonder if it will eventually discourage developers from specifically developing their games to run natively on Linux. Why would they waste their time and effort when they can just say, well, I guess those few Steam users that have Linux can run their game on Steam Play. Good luck. Hopefully that won't happen. In any case, there are only a handful of games so far that have been verified to run on Steam Play, but I reckon there are going to be more. There are going to be many more that simply have not been tested fully. I've opted into the beta version of Steam Play, and it seems like they're making a lot of updates. I'm optimistic about this concept, and I hope it'll bring more people to the Linux community. You asked me about Carl's Gaming on Batteries magazine, and yes, I do remember it, and I like your idea of putting out a small one-page PDF gaming mag. In addition to high scores, it would be cool to have 2 to 4 points of gaming news at the bottom, in a brief 1 or 2 sentence format with hyperlinks. If you haven't discussed this earlier on the show, what are your thoughts on the indie game Card Hoarder that was brought up in the last episode? So I played a bit more Space Cadet Pinball, and my new high score is 3,665,500. See the attached photo. Very nice, my man. I think it's probably my personal best. Interestingly, I observed a glitch while obtaining this score. I hit the pinball very hard, and it ricocheted off a nearby edge and got going so fast that it passed through my flipper. To make the matter more intriguing, the game let me replay that ball. Weird. Question of the week. If you could get 5 Windows games to work flawlessly on Linux, which would you choose? Take care and keep rolling retro. Hemrock, what a great email, man. What an awesome email. Let's start with the end, and we're going to work backwards. Space Cadet. Space Cadet. You know, when it was still a pack-in, I didn't play it much. I had a friend who was like, dude, this is where it's at. You got to play Space Cadet. When I went over to his house, but I never really sunk into it. So this is me really getting into Space Cadet for the first time. Now, I don't know what my high score is off the top of my head, but I can tell you that it's written into the forums on TigerClawTV.com. It's the Juice Bar forums that we're using across several of our websites. The next round is on there. The Emerald Rangers forums are on there. And I'm on there as well. There's a high score thread that I created. I'm editing my posts and just continually putting my pinball high scores, mostly from pinball fantasies and things like that, from GOG.com. Okay, here it is. I got it open. My high score for Space Cadet is 2.6 million. And let's see, what did Hemrock get again? He's up to 3.6. Whew, I got smoked in a big way. Yeah, there he goes. Hey, he posted it as well. All right, so it's game on, Hemrock. I'm going to come back and see if I can take the crown. All right, what else did you talk about? Card Hoarder. Okay, Card Hoarder is, in my mind, he's talking about a browser game. If I can make a note, Card Hoarder, include link. All right, guys. I'll find a way to get a link, or perhaps I'll do just like a quick, hey, this is the game he's talking about kind of video, so you guys can go check it out. It reminds me an awful lot like Puzzle Platformer, where you're in what looks like a vertical sort of tube, and you can shoot the boxes and stuff. But I only played it like a really short time. I haven't dug into it, so I can't really give you like a detailed review. But I will. And we'll do a little video of it, because these games, the winner games from the Ludum Dare, there's some good stuff in there. There always is, and that's where this comes from. So you never know. Maybe we'll see it on Steam at some point, because there have been several games that came out of the Ludum Dare like that. Specifically, to name one, Cannibal was a Ludum Dare game. But I feel like I feel like a scumbag, because your simple question of what are my thoughts on that game, that's my thoughts for the extremely short time I played it, because I know it's a bad idea to try and just come up with something to say when I haven't played it enough to really develop an opinion. That's a doubly scumbaggy thing to do, but I haven't forgot about it. You also asked the one-page PDF gaming mag. Yeah, that has turned into a real thing. This is going to happen. We're gonna do some Space Cadet is gonna be in issue 1. I'm gonna include some pinball gold, as well as probably pro pinball, because that's on sale on GOG right now. But I don't know. By the time I get this thing out, that will probably be long gone. What I need is there needs to be some shmups, at least a shmup on it, and there needs to be like a classic arcade game. I need to find a way to get scores from outside the group. One way to do this is to look at other places where high scores are done. Atari Age is probably the biggest place I can think of where they have a high score board that they do every week for a lot of these types of systems. Hey, print and play. These are over on Atari Age. Here's some high scores that you can try and chase down. On top of that, here's what we're doing at the Juice Bar. Here's our high scores, as well as maybe what's been submitted lately on Twin Galaxies, and then a few, like he said, quick bulletin things. We need to do a mock-up to just see what it would look like. I'm designing it so that it can be printed and played, so I wouldn't want to make it super colorful because I wouldn't want, hey, I don't want to print this. This thing's loaded with pictures. It's going to use up all my ink. But at the same time, I want to try and make it cool to look at, so you will actually want to print it. I don't know. It's a crazy idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to do this. I'm glad Manjaro is working. Yeah, Magic the Gathering Online, I got into that a little bit. It says on the page exclusively for Windows, which is a pain. I'm going to talk about this a little bit on my Magic the Gathering YouTube channel, but I feel a little bit weird playing that game because that's an old game by now, and they just came out with Magic the Gathering Arena. And when I see footage of that game, it looks like the same game. Magic the Gathering Online, just with fancy graphics. Oh, it's fancy. So I kind of feel like I'm missing the boat a little bit. On the other hand, people are still playing MTGO. So I don't know. I like it. I feel no compulsion to move up to Arena. I like the standard Magic the Gathering Online because it's not very flashy and it works on my barely running, underpowered little tiny laptop. So it's cool. I can sit in bed and the TV will be on and I'll have a little game of Magic the Gathering on. It's pretty sweet. I've been enjoying it very much actually. I think that covers everything. Awesome email. I can't believe you bumped me in Space Cadet. Ah, yes. And the best for last. You asked if I could get 5 games working flawlessly in Linux, what would they be? Here we go. And I made a list for you. They would be, in no particular order, Minecraft, because even though I've passed my phase of really being into Minecraft, it's such an important game. I want people to be able to play that natively. I think that would be huge. GTA 5 is another huge game that's just like, at one point, 9 of the top 10 games on Steam, this is before PUBG came out, 9 of the top 10 games on Steam could be run in Linux, and the one game you couldn't was GTA 5. So I would like to see that be made to run on Linux. The Sims 3 or 4, I want to see those. I put a lot of time into Sims 3. That's a game that I will play again. I'm going to go back to it at some point. And then the 2 bloody hide-and-seek games, Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight. Both newish games, a year, maybe 2 years old. I think Dead by Daylight is a year and a half, and Friday the 13th is 1 year old. Neither one of those work on Steam, not natively anyway. So I would like to see those make an appearance. Popular games, people are playing, they need to be available. Finally, that's my 5, but as a honorable mention, I would also say give us a native copy of Morrowind. Make it work out of the box so that we don't need to use Open Morrowind. That way we have access to the Windows mod crop, right? We're not limited towards what mods we're allowed to use. That would be pretty sweet as well. That would be personally pretty sweet. That's not one that I think would be a huge advance in Linux technology, but that's a game I like to play that. So that's my list, man. And thanks again for writing and helping keep this little shindig going. All right, bros. Let's go back to last week. Last week was episode 249. We'll see what we got. We got one from What's on My Shelf, who I believe, help me out, dude. Mecha Menace is what you go by everywhere else, right? I'm familiar with your handle from listening to the Mondo Coolcast. I did not put it together that and that you are one and the same. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because I made the same mistake with Balzac. I thought Balzac was also somebody else, and it turned out he wasn't. Mecha Menace, right? That's you? Okay, let's see what you got to say. He says, I saw Vigilante 8 on the N64 at a garage sale and thought of you. I wish you'd got it. I would have loved to have it. Small note, I just checked the wiki, and Howard Drozen is noted as the composer. If you don't know who that is, well, come on. He only did the OST for Sonic Spinball. Bad menu music aside, I love that game and its music. He also worked on Comic Zone, The Ooze, and Dynamite Cop. There are some titles liked by the mainstream. I'm betting there are a lot of non-vocal people who like Sonic Spinball, as I run across vids with people stating they hate it. The loud, "Sonic Spinball suck" voice remains present. I can't remember. Did the magazine say it was horrible? I like the audio interjections, noting the passage of time, similar to how those little yellow banners do in comics. If you want to add some sweetness to your seltzer while maintaining your diet, you could do a mix of some natural calorie-free sweetener, like stevia leaf powder, to your bottle drink. If you don't want to spend the cash, I recommend walking to Whole Foods or Starbucks and grabbing a large handful of stevia packs. I know I'm saying that wrong. They have there. If you want to buy some, I recommend Bulk Supplements at Amazon, and he puts a link, so I'm going to open that up and take a look. I advise caution when using this particular brand's powder because it's very, very little goes a long way, and it's easy to overdo it, making your drink cloying and seizing up your taste buds, making it have a black licorice taste. Yuck. Going by volume, try a cup of water with every 1/32 teaspoon of stevia. I think that might be too much. I haven't made it in a while, but I've mixed squeezed lemons and limes with water using a large 32-ounce bottle, 4 cups. I think I used 1/8 teaspoon. Not all stevia powders are the same. Bulk supplement powder is more fine-grained and activates more taste buds than large granular kinds. Seriously, a minuscule amount goes a long way. I have never heard of this. Let's take a look. Bulk supplements. There you go. Clean and pure bulk supplements. Jeez Louise. $16 for this thing. I don't often feel the need to put things in my water, but one thing I have tried is goji berries, dried goji berries, and you put them in the water and then they kind of fluff up. Those are pretty good. Most of the time I like my water to taste like water because I feel like that's pro water. Like that's the best kind of water is when it's just water. I feel like the more you do things to it, the further away from water you get, which I don't know is kind of weird, but I would have to learn more about what this stuff is and what it's got in it and what it does to me. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I could be down, but I worry about that kind of thing. As much as I drink, I need to have like something to drink all the time. I worry about messing with my water, especially when you're talking about how like a tiny bit goes a long, long way. I don't know. I would try it at some point. You said there's some at like Whole Foods and Starbucks. I would try that. Vigilante 8. Yeah, the music is great. I wasn't familiar with Howard Drozen, but I do know the music from Comic Zone, specifically out of the ones you listed. And I don't remember how people received Sonic Spinball, but I always liked it. I always thought it was like the sewer background was like a weird choice for a level. I thought they would have made it more like the Green Hill Zone or whatever, but I thought it was cool nonetheless. It's still a fun game. That's Sonic Funky Action Spinball. Funky action. All right. Good to hear from you, man. Thanks for writing in. And we got one last one from Death Adder, which, by the way, Death Adder, I did catch the last episode of DAS, Death Adder Super Show. You were talking about getting a smartphone for the first time and that kind of stuff. Haven't written my comment yet, but it's coming, brother. He writes, when you glance at seltzer water flavor and say, it's guaranteed to be disgusting. My wife chugs those like a frat boy on Natty Light. I think they taste like gasoline, and I avoid them. The lime flavor is probably the most tolerable. Maybe you could set aside one of those Mexican Cokes in the glass bottle for your Friday night treat. Life is just too short to live off mango orange bubble water. I saw that IGM plagiarism comparison video. It's pretty bad. The guy couldn't even wiggle his thumbs for 20 hours and say, yeah, this video game does this. What a tool bag. Call of Duty Robot Zombie 2 Rollerblading Warfare 10 out of 10 IGN. I also got a chubby at the idea of Mecha Man is still making show notes for Mondo Coolcast, but I think Jerry is like a productive member of society or something now. I do long for the days of him talking about Wing Commander and spewing hate speech about Metal Jesus Rocks. I've caught Jerry streaming on YouTube a few times here and there. He is still a legend. I gotta be honest, Death Adder, I miss those days too. He was a prolific member of member of our little circle in a big way. He was one of the guys, just how every circle's got that one guy that all the other guys imitate, and that was Jerry. But on the other hand, I'm so glad that he's doing well for himself. There are replies here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, it's what's on my shelf and Death Adder having a back and forth. I don't know why I save news stories for MCC. It's a compulsion that might be classified as a disorder by now, since Jerry doesn't contact me about a potential MCC. That's not quite right. I think he said something about doing an E3 show back in June on one of his videos. He's got things to do. I don't think about it much, but I should probably stop. Death Adder writes, "You're doing God's work. Never give up. I honestly think the last Mondo Coolcast you did with Jerry... I honestly think the last Mondo Coolcast was the one you did with Jerry 2 years ago. It stuck with me because I remember playing Banjo-Kazooie to it." Was it 2 years? Really? It's all the motivation I need to keep paying attention to current gaming news. You know what? Let me just cut in here, guys. I have to take. I have to agree with Death Adder on this one, especially since they come out so rarely. When the Mondo Coolcast comes out, it's such an event. It's like it's such an event. It's huge. Okay, everything stops when Mondo Coolcast comes out. When I get that email, I get emails every time something's posted on his website. But when it has the headline that there's a new Mondo Coolcast, everything stops, and I mean everything. So yeah, man, I would love to hear one of those again. I'll have to reach out to Jerry myself, see if I can prod him into making another one, because that would be cool. They don't have to be a regular. I know he's busy. I know he's a busy man, but once, especially with the baby, that's probably when the baby gets just a little bit older, then you can kind of ease up and start doing some of those things more. But he's got a little baby, so I understand. I'm looking forward to him being able to do some of those things again. All right, boys and girls, this is Tiger Claw Radio episode 250. However you came in your life to spend 1 hour and 9 minutes listening to me here now, thanks. I appreciate it. There's 1,000,001 ways you could spend your time, and I do appreciate how much of it you spend here, because time is the greatest currency. It's the most valuable currency, and the older I get, the more I realize that. So as we head off into our next week, let's take our problems head on, just like the Kool-Aid Man. Get yourself a big glass of Kool-Aid, but don't, because it's really bad for you, and smash right through those problems. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! I'm just going to start doing that randomly at work when I feel really bad. Oh yeah! And then I'll be quickly escorted out by security. All right, boys and girls, I'll see you in the next one.